With the Punk trial, what are your thoughts on all that?
It was bullshit. It was obviously bullshit. He should have won. There was, they were fucking with him. And I don't know, apparently I've heard that Punk can also be an abrasive person. Maybe we have a lot in common, me and him, but I've heard he can be an abrasive person, and maybe he just, I guess I heard the quote when he told Triple H, I don't need to work with you. You need to work with me, right? Was that the quote at WrestleMania?
That was the quote.
Goddamn, I can see where, but to try to get back and get even that way by fucking with him with a lawsuit. Nobody maligned nobody know this fucking doctor. They couldn't pick him out of a police lineup. They know the name because they publicized it on their own fucking website. Is he on TV? Does he do things on their television program? If so, that would probably do more damage to his reputation as a doctor, because most of the doctors are fucking job guys from Lancaster, Pennsylvania for the last 20 years on that fucking show.
I once saw Greg Greenland as a doctor.
Yeah, Greg Greenland was a fucking doctor when he was a brain surgeon. So if he appears as a doctor on their program, that may do more fucking damage to his reputation as a physician in the medical community than CM Punk saying that he was an asshole that fucking didn't cut the staph infection out of his back. And but I mean, it just is childish. It got that fucking far to begin with, in my opinion. So I rah.
It raises that question you've heard asked before about guys who really never go back, guys who actually stick to their guns and say, I'm done, I'm out, I don't love it anymore, or I don't want to be a part of it anymore. I mean, Jack Briscoe literally jumped on a plane and never returned.
Yeah.
How many other guys can you think of who actually got to that point and just said, I'm done, and they really were?
Well, but now here's the thing. Done in what fashion? Because Jack Briscoe actually did work technically in wrestling after he was retired from the ring. He even did Fan Fest 20 years later, right, before his death, when they started becoming a thing. He did a couple of those. And the guys now that retire, I think Jerry Jarrett had a quote that I agreed with one time. It applied to a couple of different situations I got myself into. He said, I found out after a while that I didn't hate the wrestling business. I just hated the people that I was in the wrestling business with.
Yeah.
And so, it will, if CM Punk just doesn't do a wrestling fan fest or Legends reunion or ever just to come and hang out with the boys, or a souped up Cauliflower Alley thing, or just one of the Legends events that a lot of the, big name guys go to and et cetera. If he doesn't ever do that, maybe he just says, fuck wrestling, I'm done with it. And, I never want to be a part of it again. That's even more unusual than guys who retire and don't come back to wrestling and don't wrestle another match. Shawn Michaels said he's never going to wrestle another match, but he's done umpteen appearances and things. Most guys aren't hermits anymore by choice. The ones that completely disappear and you never see them again sometimes are the ones that maybe disappear against their own will. But you know what? Here's somebody I haven't seen in years, and I hope he's doing well. Jack Lanza. You would think even somewhere in Minneapolis or whatever, if he wanted to, and he's probably one of those guys, because he's got to be 80 now. But he might be one of those guys that I'm not going out or whatever. He, kept up with guys like Bobby and the people he really loved on the phone. But he never did a lot of appearances. But you can't really – who can you think of that not only retires from wrestling and doesn't wrestle again, but doesn't come around and do some type of appearance somewhere, even if just to see the boys?
It's hard to say. There was a long gap where Ron Fuller had nothing to do with wrestling.
True.
I mean, obviously now he does. But
finally we got a couple of reunions and got him back around.
That's right. Steamboat came back. Bruno came back. Almost everyone comes back at some point to do something. I mean, the thing with Punk is Punk's part of a unique generation where if the camaraderie with the boys at a fan fest, which doesn't sound great to me, isn't something that appeals to him, and he just wants to sign autographs and make money, he could do that on his own. He can advertise
Well,
it on
yes,
his own.
yeah.
And, he's in a very fortunate situation where he doesn't really need the power of the WWE. If he wanted to do a show like All In with any of these guys, he can go do it and they'll sell out somewhere. So he's kind of, if he ever wanted to do something in wrestling, he doesn't have to go back to the WWE to make money.
Oh, well, definitely not. But I mean, coming back to the any of it, the whole concept of the wrestling world, we'll see what happens. And oh, come on, it's fun hanging out. If it's the boys from the right generation, and I know that today I sense somewhat that they get the idea that wrestling is a brotherhood or a brother and sisterhood, a fraternity, or a sorority or whatever the fuck it is. But the guys that were in the business, in the wrestling business, in the territories that actually understood what it was and rode in those cars and all those towns, all those years, they still like when they get together hanging out with each other and telling stories. I'm sure, the stories in 20 years from this generation, maybe when their agent got them on a reality show, but it'll be, either, fucking around with some rat in Little Rock or goddamn broke down on the side of the road in Tupelo for, the previous few generations. It's like me and Bobby Fulton. We can figure out, it doesn't matter how long it's been. We instantly start talking about the same thing at the same time because it was a different relationship that all the guys had that they can only understand. And even to the point where when we talk to some of the younger guys, they're like, thank you. And they don't get it.
Well, let's get another.
Well,